today we're talking with the author of The Child Whisperer. I found out about this book from my newborn photographer. She was talking about all the different types of children that she's been photographing, and she was telling me what she thought my children were. And I wish I remember what she said because that was 2 years ago.
No, it's probably better you didn't.
I know, right?
Really. I recommend not hearing it from someone else first. It'll skew your own interpretation, unfortunately.
Well, what was so interesting was a couple months later, my daughter started up swim again, and all the swim instructors were talking about this book as well. And they're like, our instructor really recommended us to read it so that we could learn how to work with the different children. So I was like, okay, I need to get this book. Bought it, and then it sat there on my nightstand for 2 years, and I finally devoured it, and I read it within an entire week. I couldn't put it down, and I loved it.
You need audiobooks. That's the tip.
I know. With children, I need audiobooks.
That's a clue to your type, by the way.
Oh, really? Well, I was struggling between the two types with both my children. I think my oldest is a type 2 with a type 3, as a secondary. It's a picture of my oldest.
Okay. Now tell me let's talk about your oldest. What's her name?
Her name is Olivia.
Okay, Olivia. Now, and in the Child Whisperer, the type 2 child's called the sensitive child. Mm-hmm. And they have a more emotional connection with the world, and they have a tendency to need more time to process and get familiar with things. And they can get some of the, unfortunately, people can profile their children based on the stresses that they exhibit. And in a type 2 world, the stress exhibits is whining and fussing and clingy. Mm-hmm. And really needy, and a parent will just feel kind of like, you're just, it feels drippy because the energy is water. Every type has a connection to a natural element, and so either the type 2 child is flowing smoothly, or they feel a little overwhelming times. Mm-hmm. You notice in her that you think she's a type 2 because you would have considered things to go, oh, I see this in her.
She's very emotional. Like you said, she's very clingy. She gets her feelings extremely hurt very easily.
She's sensitive.
Yes, very
sensitive nature.
Yeah. People always say when they first meet her that she's shy.
Okay. And I like to remove those labels because children, everyone has social abilities and their way with being social. A type 2 just needs more time to get familiar. When she's forced into a situation too quickly, she'll pull back, a turtle that goes in its shell. It's just not feeling comfortable yet. That's a key word for a type 2 is they need to feel comfortable in settings. So based on that, and I teach people how to notice in their features, her what we look for in a type 2 child is a elongated cheek, kind of a heaviness towards the bottom of the face. Mm-hmm. Everything floating downward.
See, and I feel like my youngest has that feature, and I think that's why I was struggling so much, but I don't know.
I think you're right with her being a type 2. And one of your mistakes trying to figure out her dominant and secondary, I wouldn't worry about the secondary. See the type 2 in her. See how her eyes, this part of her face, everything floats downward.
I'm going to put the picture up there so they can see.
We call it a heavy lidded eyelid, and just her movements moving softly down. Features are softened.
I can see that. See, and I think that's where I was struggling because I'm like, every picture I'm looking at, I felt like all the eyes on everyone. I was like, they're facing downward.
Talk about your type for a minute.
Okay.
You're not a type 2, I'll tell you that. You don't do details. You want to move through stuff fast.
Yeah, that is true.
You want an answer now. That's why you're like, I'm just going to talk to her. What type would want that?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Is that a type 4?
No, type 4s are very methodical, analytical, research, being their own authority, figuring things out on their own.
I remember a type 3 probably then, because the type 1 was really playful, and that's not me.
No, you're type 3. What's happening with her is your push energy is stressing her out a lot of the time. Kind of like you're behind her. I have a really good metaphor. We all are familiar with TSA lines. Or security lines at the airport. And I was in line, and I'm a type 3 also, and I had a type 3 woman behind me, and I felt her energy just coming at me like, hurry up. She never said anything.
Yeah.
Her energy presented as trying to push me forward. And being a type 3, I noticed that, and I thought, wow, I bet I do that to people. And then I thought, I bet I did that to my kids, which is gonna make her fussy and whiny.
Uh-huh.
So when you're like, come on, let's go, you got to pull your energy off her and let her move
at her pace.
Yeah, because she can't handle the stress of it.
Okay, that makes sense, because that's where we're struggling right now, is with her acting out a lot. And that's where I couldn't figure out if she was a type 3, because wasn't a type 3, when they're like upset, they can get very destructive? And
any child will if they're under stress. So you can't equate that to a type 3. No, type 3s are having fun, and they can be get into things. I don't like to use negative. No children wakes up to go, I'm going to make my parents' life miserable today. There's never an ill intent in a child's design. Is maybe when they're in their teens, they're going to start being calculating, but not at this, no way are children ever able to conceive on their own ill will towards their parents. That's why there's no, my world, negative adjectives and references are they're not serving to a child. So notice it's you creating that, not her.
Okay. I do notice that I say hurry up a lot, and I know
that's one thing you have to stop.
Yeah.
2 type 2 children, and they're with any of my kids, being a type 3 mother, they were the ones that I had to do the most healing with in their adult relationships. It's me not stopping and connecting to them.
That is my fear with her. So
well, now you have the information to change it.
Yeah. So with my second, I think she's a type 3.
All right, let's look at her photo. And what you're basing that on?
I feel like our personalities are a lot more in line, and I don't know, just when I was reading the book, I felt like she was a type 3 a lot more.
Okay. Hold up her photo again. I want to point out a couple of things. When you're looking now, you can see in her face some interesting, you have to now look at some features. You might say, oh, her eyes are moving downward also.
Uh-huh.
Which is her sister. The thing that stands out to me is her chin has an angle in it. It's what I call a chiseled chin. Okay. Her nose has a little bit of lumpy clayness. There's more of a substance to her nose for a child her age. And then look at how deep the inner points of her eyes are, which is very type 3. Psych, you're right. She's a type 3.
Okay.
So this child is surrounded, your oldest is surrounded by type 3 energy.
And it's probably really hard on her.
It can be, yeah.
Okay.
This is the one that's going to get lost between, she's like in a type 3 sandwich.
Okay, that makes sense. And we're the 2 that she's around the most, because my husband's always at work. So
yeah, and your other one's going to be more in rhythm with you, kind of like if a drum's beating. The drum of a type 3 is more bump, 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 and your youngest is going to go, that's my beat, where the type 2 is like, ta-ta, ta-ta.
Okay.
The difference. And that's the thing. She just needs more time. Like, let's say you're getting ready to go somewhere. You need to start 20, 30 minutes earlier with her, but let her then, she's old enough to start putting her plant, put a little plant. Type 2s operate well to plans, to say when mommy says we're leaving in 20, 30 minutes, maybe with little pictures or something, she knows what she's got to do, and she does it on her own pace. Rather than you deciding 5 minutes before, let's go. Yeah, she's enrolled in that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, in the mornings for preschool, it's a struggle.
Things like that you alter to her preferences, that in children quite young can start to self-manage and put on shoes and get their stuff, and they can do all that, once they're about 3, Anytime when you can start to dialogue, have conversations, a child's old enough to start giving some self-management tasks.
Okay.
But she's very happy that I'm talking to you.
I know. She loves seeing herself and everyone on camera.
Well, you were interesting that you were correct and you weren't trusting yourself. What I think parents run into is your children every day, I teach in the book, your children every day, they want you to know this and they're telling you who they are. So using those assessment skills, it's when you get muddled by talking to too many people about it or making comparisons, because not every type 2 child's exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's some universal themes they all have.
Kept on trying to talk to my husband, like, what do you think? What do you think? And of course, he was no help.
You should probably listen to it or read it together, parts of it. So he's on the same strategy and then he can figure out his type. I don't know his type, but universally more type 3 women are married to type 2 men than any other type. So.
Okay. Well, I know my oldest is a lot like him, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And that means you have 2 if that's the case, you only have 2 energies in your family.
Yeah.
You don't have a type 4 that helps create an energy of structure, and you don't have a type 1 that lightens things up. So the type 3s can overpower the type 2s in the family, and it can feel real heavy and pushy.
Yeah, that probably just described our house.
So bring in a type 1 friend every once in a while to lighten up the energy. Well, you're doing great.
Well, thank you. I extremely doubted myself because I think the tantrums was what threw me off. But it's like you said, every kid's going to act out when they're upset. So
yeah, I have the weekly podcast, and we look at every little variable now of children's behavior and experience, their development, and their different, from large motor skill to small motor skill development. We look at everything. So really listen to the podcast. They're very short. They're only 15 minutes. But we'll go through typically, like I know there's one on tantrums, and we'll talk about what tantrums look like for each type. Take something like a tantrum and say, well, every child will have that tendency when they're stressed. What does that look like for each type? And so just start listening. If you subscribe to my, if you go to thechildwhisperer.com, you can subscribe to the podcast and you'll get a update every week in an email. And then you just click and listen for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Type 3, you can put it on double speed.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much. I love podcasts and I'm always recommending them to people. So we'll definitely put a link to this as well. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm grateful that you're interested in this and be happy for your children. Having come from a family where I wasn't honored, it's always just a thrill to me that parents have this information. So you don't do undue damage, unnecessary damage, because you're not waking up thinking I want to mess up my kid.
Yeah.
But we just default to things because of who we are, and we don't know stress when it doesn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I came across your book, so thank you.
Follow up, you can just we've got a lot of great information on thechildwhisperer.com. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.